God brought Moses to deliver them. Verse 31 says this, so the people believed. And when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, that He, God, had looked on their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshiped. What happened? When they were focused on God, when they were focused on what lay ahead of them instead of what was behind them, they bowed their heads and worshiped. They were excited. They were thankful. Then they found themselves trapped by the Red Sea. In their life, when circumstances change, fear sets in, and that's what happens to us. Fear causes us to resist change. Whether that change is in our personal life, new job, leaving for school, maybe health issues, whether it's our family life, maybe you or one of your loved ones are getting married, maybe somebody has decided in your family to have children. It could be in your spiritual walk. God is calling you to a certain ministry at this local church. It could be teaching a Sunday school class, helping with the bus, working in the junior church, being an usher, being a greeter. It doesn't matter, but maybe God's calling you into full-time ministry, and you said, "Not me, God." God, do you understand how scary that is? Could be church life. 3 years ago, this church called me as their pastor after 20 years of the same man. And 20 years prior to that of the same man, of the same family. Change is hard. Change is hard. The new pastor brought in changes, new direction. Change is hard. It's only one group of people that like change. Babies. The rest of us are pretty content staying where we're at. Fear causes us to want to relive the good old days. That's what the Israelites were doing. They were looking back at what they had. Now, for some reason, they forgot all the pain, the misery, and everything that went with slavery. Moses, you should have just left us back where you found us. And we do the same thing. We do the same thing. We look back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and think, man, God, everything was perfect. Well, we know it wasn't. Convinced ourselves that it was. God has a promised land, just like He did for the Israelites. If we will trust Him, He has a purpose for your life, but fear changes our focus, and fear causes us to miss what God has for us, the blessings for us. So what do you fear today, right now? Maybe losing your job. Teresa and I had lunch with two of our dearest friends yesterday. And after 20 years of working for the same organization, at 62 years old, they told him his services were no longer necessary. And I can tell you that they are fearful. And I will tell you the same thing I told them, Philippians 4:19, and he knows this verse, and my God shall supply all your needs according to His riches and glory. And that's what we have to hold on to. Is it easy? Certainly not. And it won't be easy. What do you fear? Aging? Declining health? Psalm 71:9 says, do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength fails. Maybe you're here today and you're wondering how you're going to pay your bills this week. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. He will direct your path. So fear changes our focus. So if we understand that, how do we alleviate it? How do we get rid of this thing that all of us struggle with? Well, the first thing we need to understand is we need to remember God's power in our lives. Remember God's power. Look at verse 15. Look at verse 15. It says this, and the Lord said to Moses, have you ever thought God was maybe saying this to you? Why are you coming to me? Isn't that what it says? Look, it says, why do you cry to me, Moses? Tell the children of Israel just to move forward. Tell them to move forward, but lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea. See, and divide it. And look here. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. We've got to remember how powerful God is. God tells Moses to lead the Israelites to the Red Sea. And once you get there, raise that rod and watch me do my thing. Because when I show up, I show off. That's our God. He obeys. And what does God do? Exactly what he said he would do. He divided the sea. The Israelites walked through on dry ground. Now, not a clue. Teresa and I were at Universal Studios way young, when we were young in our marriage. We were probably only about 5 years prior to that. Well, no, 10 years prior to that, a television or a movie came out where Charlton Heston was Moses. How many of you seen that movie? Yeah, some of you have seen it. And he goes to the Red Sea, and it parts. And we were amazed as we watched it at the movie theaters. Well, we saw how they did it, and we drove through on a train through that same Red Sea. I don't think that's how God did it. Cecil DeMille does not keep up with God. Dry ground. And so now you have to understand there's almost 2 million Israelites. 2 million Israelites. They march through the Red Sea. They get to the other side. The Egyptians come into the Red Sea. They get in smack dab in